Hi. Sorry, just a minute late there. So, anyway, hey everybody. I seen Doug's already in there. So, uh, he said he failed today, so that sucks. Uh, I've had them days before. I think we all have. So, not pleasant. So, anyway, um, I wait on the YouTube to catch. Uh, uh, start. I got something local. I'm gonna start with a little news thingy there. I seen it earlier, and I thought it's hilarious. The, anyway, and then I'll get into the boy thing. So, anyway, any day. Okay. Okay, now. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're live finally. Well, it's a minute delay. You know, thing. Anyway, um, hopefully we'll have no mess ups here or nothing. So, uh, just kind of close some stuff. There we go. Okay. Anyway, uh, so besides there, it sounds like wasn't very pleasant of a day because of the fall. Hope everybody had a good day. I'm just having a good evening. So, uh, not being too hot here today. You know, it's getting to be fall, so um, it's still warm. It's not as hot, so that's good. Uh, so uh, anyway, no, I was gonna do the thing about the symbolisms and stuff today, but I hadn't had time to really do anything, look into anything and stuff besides what I already know, which I've already said mostly, and don't know if I'll be able to do that Saturday because got plans Friday and Saturday. I think we do too. So maybe be Sunday and Monday. I don't know. So we'll see, or maybe just do it next week. I'll just do it next Wednesday. So that sounds good. So, um, but yeah, uh, about the how they use the symbolism, the symbol. Like I said last time, about how they use the ancient symbols that have spiritual meaning and stuff. They use them to trick us into going along with their shit and tricking us into buying their things and stuff. So um, anyway, um, so yeah. Yeah. We talk about synchronicity. Derp. The yeah. So after I showed this one thing here, it's funny. Uh, it's in my area, I thought, hey, I'll just look at my state news and see what's news. And it's like something about Allstate is bringing in more insurance reps, 2,500 more. Woo. And the healthcare system is integrating more mental health care into the system. Woo-hoo, yeah. Let's see what else. Basketball or some kind of sport. I don't pay attention to sports. Uh, Bo Bergdahl, something about his stuff he said while he was being held, but they're not going to release none of it. Anyway, well, whatever that significance that is, just a distraction, you know, people to think, hey, I wonder what he said. Maybe, I don't know. And this one here is too, but I thought it was funny because it's in my county here. So anyway, um, but uh, with that insurance one, Allstate, it was listed in the news thing like maybe 3 or 4 times. There different articles. So um, anyway, that's my insurance. Um, okay, so hello guys. Again, so let me get to the right thing here. I know, like I said, this is a distraction. It's a clickbait article, but I thought it was funny, like I said, because it was local here. It's mythology slash sci-fi slash conspiracy slash who knows if it's real, you know, type of thing. So, um, anyway, just give me a second here. So, okay. Hang on. Okay, it is funny. Okay, if it'll let me screen share, if it don't screw up on me. So, yeah. Okay, here we go. Oh wow, I have 2 weather alerts. Yay. Uh, Bigfoot hunters spot legendary hairy creature. North Carolina group says this was Friday night. Uh, see, they ain't even got a picture. It's just a drawing, whatever. This was in my county. See, uh, okay, you know, like I said, you know, this is hilarious. And like always, they don't never get no picture of them. If you know, there's their Facebook page. It's a closed group. They hit pay dirt here in my county. Yeehaw! Um, the moon was shining straight down on the road, and something big stepped into view. I turned my headlamp on, and I saw a large bipedal animal covered in hair. It took one step into the woods, and then I took off running toward where it went into the woods. See, and they didn't nobody think to take a fucking picture. Seriously. Um, see, they don't have nothing, so it didn't happen. So um, I'll put the link to this here. The chat, it's freaking, it's silly. Like I said, they didn't even have no evidence, no proof. So, but that was just my silliness for today, there, y'all. So I'm sorry. I apologize. So seriously, I'm getting into the other stuff now. So, but if nobody joins and stuff, I'll probably end early or paint a picture. But I do apologize for that. I just wanted to share that because it's wow, you know, my local area, Bigfoot. Really? And they never have no pictures of it, so it didn't happen. So okay. Um, hey y'all, hey whoever's watching. There's a but yeah, I'll read from some of this. God damn it. I'll put the links in the chat thing. So, what is synchronicity? It was the term synchronicity is coined by Carl Jung, to express a concept that belongs to him, a causal connection of 2 or more psychic and physical phenomena. This concept was inspired to him by a patient's case that was in a situation of impasse in treatment. Her exaggerated rationalism was holding her back from assimilating unconscious materials. One night, the patient dreamt a golden scarab. The next day, during the psychotherapy session, a real insect this time hit against the Young's cabinet window. He caught it and discovered surprisingly that it was a golden scarab, a very rare presence for that climate. So the idea is all about coincidence, in this case between the scarab dreamt by the patient and its appearance in reality in the psychotherapy cabinet. But this coincidence is not senseless, a simple coincidence. No, it's not. I mean, I have a list, you know, I could I've said some of them before on some of my previous shows and stuff, but yeah, no coincidences. So, but synchronicities, trying to tell you something there. So, like premonitions, that's why it said, the psychic phenomena. So, um, like you dream of things to come, type of thing. So, uh, yes, I will, David. Uh, just give me a sec here to finish reading this really quick. Um, shit. Um, but yeah, that's what that's my take on it there, because it was she dreamed of a golden scarab, and then the next day there was one there at her session, so, and it's rare there. So, those are, but uh, y'all know what synchronicity is. So. But I will put these links below, and the Bigfoot one too. So I just thought that was just freaking hilarious. Sorry. Uh, okay. Hang on, I lost my place. But this coincidence is not senseless, a simple coincidence. By using the amplification method, Young associates a connection with the scarab and comes to the concept of death and rebirth from the esoteric philosophy of antiquity, a process that in a symbolic way the patient should experience for renewal and vitalization of her unilateral personality, the cause of the neurosis she was suffering from. It can be something simple, too, that she just dreamed about. Anyway, or saw a vision of it, you know what I'm saying? Thus, a significant coincidence or physical and psychological phenomena that are a causal connected. Oh, yeah. Anyway, behind all these phenomena, Young places the archetype or the constellation of an archetype, which in his view is a process that engages equally objective manifestations in the physical world and subjective ones in the psychological universe. Uh, so, you can check out his books and stuff there. Yeah, I've learned more. I've read one of them, but I've learned more about this type of stuff, personal experience and stuff like that. So, um, anyways, hey, Paula, uh, and David and Dud, whoever else there. So, uh, let's see how you there in the chat. So, just give me just a sec here, guys. I'm gonna get my headphones on. So, um, anyway, uh, but yeah, that's my take on that. About the synchronicity. Um, like I said, there's no coincidences. Um, so, like I said, I've said on previous shows about my own experiences, with, like she had, the seeing the scarab in her green, and then there it appeared there at her session. So, I mean, anyway, second here, y'all. Okay, so I will put this here real quick, y'all. So there, uh, the I don't think can click that. So I'll add you to the box here. Give me just a second. Okay. You are added, bud. So there you go. Okay, okay. There. Okay, and you will be in the box when you come in, just so you know, uh, the cameraman box thing. But yeah, that's my take on that. So, um, like preparing you for coming events. Uh, I've heard people talk about that on here myself. Uh, when I'm asked about this subject, they're like Cookie, Debbie, and a few others. That's kind of the same thing. That's getting you ready for what's coming, uh, and things like that. So, but yeah, I've had that happen so many times. I couldn't even count them. You know, we all have had these experiences, but not everybody talks about them. But I don't care to talk about them, you know, because it's something that we experience every day, and we should talk about it more often because it's part of who we are, you know. So, um, so yeah, yeah. Uh, anyways, uh, okay. While I'm waiting, okay, uh, I'll have another one. But yeah, that's. I got another article here. I don't know how to close that. Synchronicity in the soul. Might read a little bit from that, or put it. Just put it in the YouTube's there, and then like I said, I'll put all three of them links below, even the Bigfoot. Yeah, that was funny. That's, I looked up my news for my state and found Bigfoot. So, it's hilarious. Uh, Distraction, you know, get people, ooh, looking for Bigfoot instead of looking at other things, you know. So, let's go look in the woods and see if we can find Bigfoot. Well, but anyway, you know, the synchronicity thing, that's, you know, real stuff. The Bigfoot, that's something, like I said, they ain't got no pictures of it. You can't prove it, whereas we can prove these things that happen to us. So, anyways, um, my headphones are on. Sometimes they cut off by themselves. So, let me let you out of the box there. Okie dokie. While waiting. Okay. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello?
Party time.
Hello?
Party time.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
There's no party.
well, I just took myself a good little trip.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
Did
scarred
you
up 2
fall
knees,
hard?
an ankle, and an elbow.
That sucks.
You know, I just keep thinking there's nothing wrong with me. I can do this. I can, just
Maybe your
can't.
equilibrium, your equilibrium's off.
I keep moving or attempting to move and operate like I operate when I do things. And
Yeah. Yeah.
God.
Oh, you know, I had problems like that. We all do, you know. Um, so that was my nickname in high school, was clumsiness. I was the only one out of our group that would fall up the stairs. So, go figure.
I had a mouse get into my candy bar while I was gone.
Damn.
Yeah, he ate what, 3/4 of it, and left me one, like 4 of those little bricks left
No. How
of
about?
the large size, linden. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, little
Well,
bugger. But anyway,
yeah.
I tried to live catch him in my live trap, and he figured a way out of it. He tipped the thing over, knocked the door open, and got away. So unfortunately for him, I had to use the other style trap, and well, he met his demise. I want to keep one as a pet. That's my thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do you have any examples of synchronicity? That's the subject. So,
Well, I don't know.
Coincidences that you can't explain, type of thing.
A few. Give me a moment.
I got a list, man. I can't even name them all. I have on some of my previous shows, though, on my other channel and this one a bit. But, yeah. Um, so this is more an intuition type of stuff.
Well, I've been in sync with other people where, like me and Marilyn, like we used to be neighbors and we would go outside and smoke cigarettes together.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. That's like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Something
but I
like that,
mean,
yeah.
we would just literally walk out the door, simultaneously, you know, because,
Yeah.
well, you could almost see each other's door, but as soon as you walk out, you could.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was
Like that.
amazing. I mean, our timing was just, you know, not that we had anything planned or anything. It's just, time to go.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. I've had that happen on here a lot, and like I said, having the dreams and stuff, dreams, uh, premonitions, whatever, and then they coming through and stuff. That's what this was talking about, with that lady with the scarab dream there. So that's uh, you know, it's more than intuition, and everything, and it can mean many different things. Uh, so it's like they say, don't have someone else interpret them for you. You only know yourself. So but anyway,
Um, really, I just usually chalk that up to coincidence, and that was going to happen anyway, or just always throwing it under the bus like that. I really never committed it to memory, but yeah, I mean, I have things like that happen a lot.
well, there's
You
no
know,
coincidences. That's like we said, the synchronicity where you get in sync with people type of thing. And like I said about the premonition dreams, whatever you want to call, uh, and you next day or even like a month or two down the road or something, you can have it happen. Even years, I've had it happen to me. So uh, that's like I said, it's deeper than the simple thing there of being in sync with people like that.
yeah,
But yeah, that's the part of it there, too. That's just a small part of it, what I meant.
Hi.
yeah. I mean, I have gone to
Hello,
dial somebody, pick up the phone, and they're on the other line
and then
that I'm
they're on the
dialing.
phone. Yes. Oh yes, that's yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Uh, you think of somebody and they call or whatever.
Well, I mean, I'm picking up the phone to call them, and they're, had already called me, and I picked up the phone before it rang. I mean, that's back in the old days when
Yeah.
we had the
Yeah.
phones.
Yeah.
There's such a
I've had that
delay
happen a
on
lot.
these cell phones that you could never synchronize on these cell phones. I
No.
think that's why they've done it. That they seem to unsynchronize.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hey, Grim, if you or happen to listen to this, I got a little message for you. There is a way to turn off all ads that are circulating. Is another thing in the options. There
Yeah.
is a way to turn it off. Yeah, to fully. I
What are
mean,
you talking about?
because well, I was watching Grimm's videos and they were showing advertisements in the middle of it.
Ad blocker plus.
Oh, I've never
That's what I
done
use.
that. I've always thinking to myself that YouTube's going to bite me in the ass, or I don't know. And
Yeah.
I don't mind looking at the commercials to see what they're pushing on me to see
Hmm.
my internet viewing and stuff.
Well, I don't want to see them.
To see them, but I mean, I skip through most of them, and the ones that are fifth, I mute them immediately. I mean, that's my first reaction: is I gotta mute, gotta mute, gotta mute. Because I mean, that freaking the sound alone, uh, and then puts you in that alpha state to try to
It's
sell their
okay.
product, and I don't want them to push an alpha state on me.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, getting back to the subject there, Paula said that happens to her a lot too. Don't Yeah, like I said, it happens to a lot of people, to everybody. They call it deja vu. The weirdest sensation, she says. You're like in a film and you know the exact next thing that's going to happen, but only seconds before. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. But like the events could be out of order. Like I've experienced that personally. It's up to you to put that all together. So it's not given to you in sync there. It's all out of order. So, but anyways, I see David there.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello there. Synchronicity, eh?
Yeah.
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 the Rosicrucian Carl Jung, although I much prefer him to Freud, to put it mildly.
Yes.
He certainly points out a lot
indeed.
of interesting things, and you know, I mean, the one thought that crossed my mind while I was listening there is that you know, I've met more than one person going through this life that have this what I consider to be a pre-programmed concept of that everything is predestined, that your fate is already laid out for you, and I beg to differ there, because I do believe we so how do you equate that with synchronicity? Because some people would interpret synchronicity as evidence of everything being predestined, and that's not where I'm at. Yes, I've had countless experiences of, and crikey, I could go on for I don't know how long, pointing out things. I mean, déjà vu was mentioned there. I remember walking towards, I was walking through some trees along a sort of a wild pathway out in the woods in the middle of nowhere, and then I recognized this branch, and then I'd never been there before physically, but then I recognized the place, stuff like that, you know. And that's just for warm-up. But other types of connection, the way I've met people on in the strangest places. On the same day, I met 3 people without having to having arranged to meet them, on street corners. And you're walking towards a street corner, right? And like I'm walking towards this one street corner, and I'm about to turn to the right, and exactly on the corner I meet this certain person that was worth meeting, certainly someone I wanted to meet. This American lady who was a mixture of Lakota and African American mixture. Really cool lady who lives in Norway. Anyway, who's interested in music, blah blah blah. And then on the same day, I walked towards another street corner on the way up in another direction in Oslo, and about to turn to the right. Didn't even know my mum was in Oslo. There she is. I meet her exactly on the street corner, and it was like, whoops. That was suddenly, you know. And then there was another one. I think it was that same day as well. But then to go deeper, I'm sitting at home in Oslo before I'm in the place I was living at before I moved here on the east end of Oslo. And I'm sitting there basically on the sofa, and in my mind's eye, I see a friend of mine on his bicycle, and it's nighttime, it's evening time, about 10 or 11 at night in the evening or something like that. And in my mind's eye, I see him on his bicycle, specifically along a street called Schweigårdsgate in Oslo, along between the tram lines and the pavement, heading towards my place, and that was clear in the vision that he was on the way to my place, you know, spontaneously, without having told me he was on the way. But then, and I was quite, you know, this is perfect, you know, I could do with a visit. And then in the vision, he stops, turns his bicycle around, changes his mind, and turns back. So 2 days later, I spontaneously visited him, and I said, I asked him straight out, did you, the day before yesterday, take your bicycle, head out along Schweigårdsgate, Schweigård Street, heading towards my place, and and I pointed out the specific place in Schweigårdsgate where he turned round his bicycle and everything. And did you change your mind exactly there at Schweigårdsgate before the right-hand turn, blah blah blah, and then head back to your place? And he looked at me shocked, and he said, "Yeah."
Oh wow!
I did, you know. And I mean, you know, I've got countless experiences like this, and of course, when you're pointing out specifics, it's not a coincidence. When you're pointing out when the vision matches the actual reality down to a T, once is hair raising enough, but when it happens countless times, in different ways, there is definitely something going on there, in my opinion. Of course, these things are difficult to prove, but that was proof for him. Because I mean, there was no maybe he thought I was like standing someplace down on the street there, and I just saw him physically. But no, I didn't. I was at home, and there was no way for me to physically see him from my home on that street. So I just thought I'd throw that one in there. Also, I just mentioned that you may have heard of the Australian Yowie, Yowie, which is a bit like the Australian version of Bigfoot.
Yes.
So if you're interested in Bigfoot things, that's another search keyword for those who want to. So that's Yowie. Yowie, however you pronounce it. I'm not very good at an Australian accent, so I'm not going to even try that.
Like me, I tried to spell definitely in the chat, and I totally bombed it. So I can't. So I can't even do. Don't worry. But yeah, you know.
Another psychic phenomena, or that may relate to synchronicity, that I've had countless times. I had it just the other day, which reminded me of it actually. It's not something I actively go around thinking about, but when I'm using the internet, or more often than not when I'm visiting someone with a television set, which I'll get into in a minute. But just the other day, I was watching Swillianism, I think he calls his channel. He was walking around at some art exhibition. It's one of his latest videos. Some art expo in London, in the streets of London there. And right before, I'd never seen the video. I hadn't read any description of the video, blah, blah, blah. And the video is running, and he's at this doorway, which is just a door frame with a door just standing upright, you know, like almost like a magical doorway into another world, insinuation for me anyway. But then I'm thinking, black horse, and I'm thinking, and then bang, a few seconds later in the video, there's a statue of a freaking black horse. Now that's great. I mean, I've got no witnesses to this, blah blah blah. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. But many times visiting a friend of mine down the street, who he's been in a hangout with us. The guy you met from Norway, that made it into a hangout once or twice. Well, I'm visiting him countless times. I mean, countless, probably at least 20, 30 plus times. I've picked it up before it comes through the TV set, because there's some sort of a delay where you can pick it up through the ether before it actually gets through the TV set broadcast. And we're talking about specifics here. Okay, sometimes I've pointed out things that were predictable. Like one program we were watching, I said, look, he's going to talk about climate change, because I just knew what they were going to talk about. You know, it was too predictable. But I'm talking about things that weren't predictable. And I would say, let's say, I mean, it wasn't this word, but let's say like a word you hardly ever hear, like supercalifragilistic or something. And this word or a phrase or something, and I would just get the urge to say it out loud, and seconds later, it's usually just it's usually between 3 and 10 seconds somewhere, then it will be on the broadcast that we're watching.
Wow.
This has happened up to 3 times in one evening on several occasions. And my friend is looking at me like, whoa, what the heck? I said, look, this is a natural phenomena. And eventually it started happening to him too. And we had it both happening to us on the same day. It happened to, he picked up 1, I picked up 2 or 3 on the same day. And then he picked up on another occasion, a couple of occasions as well, 1 or 2. That was more recently. He started picking it up as well. He started tuning in to the same channel in the ether, if you like. I mean, to try and explain it, you know, I mean, how is it we're picking up? Well, of course, I mean, these air waves and these vibrations that they send the audio and and video broadcasts to us. I mean, these are vibrations and frequencies that are both in and around us, and you know, it's a bit like tuning into a radio. Really, you're tuning into a radio station. If you're sensitive in the right way, and often it's you know, when I'm tuning into these things, you know, it's not like I see a radio dial or anything.
Right.
Just you feel something.
Yes.
It's hard to define, and sometimes I don't even know how I get there. Sometimes it happens spontaneously without me even having to tune in, and I find these things fascinating. For me, well, I mean, these things for me relate directly to the near-death experience I had as a child. Where what I was seeing from outside of my body, which I described to the people in the hospital afterwards, matched up to reality, because I was actually outside my body looking down on my physical body and describing the events that actually happened. So you can actually have that type of experience without having to have a near-death experience. There are techniques for going out of the body and doing that. But having said that, you know, some people get confused. They get led up a garden path or two, because there is such a thing as an imagination, which doesn't necessarily, you can imagine things that don't necessarily connect to the things I'm talking about now. So people can be misled by hijacking their imagination, well, either via hypnotic techniques and related, usually to control them, as we know. Around this neck of the woods, we know about things like that and think about things like that. And then there are, you know, without, and I like the way you were saying about, you know, don't let someone interpret your dreams. You're the best person qualified to interpret your own dreams. And if you study yourself and you study the own phenomena without having to follow somebody else's instructions, you're going to learn more. Than, I mean, do that first and look at people's instructions if you like. I mean, you know, as long as you don't allow yourself to be hijacked by all the techniques in the in the toolbox.
It's like a guideline. Use it like as a guideline type of thing. Don't let it fully interpret it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. This is probably almost definitely the last broadcast I'll be able to join in with for a long time at least, because I'm moving next Friday to a place, and luckily I found a place.
That's good.
Otherwise, I would be homeless in about a week and a half from now, or 9 days from now. I would be homeless if I hadn't found this place. But there's no internet there, so. But looking on the, I mean, I could do with a break from it anyway.
Everybody can.
Although it's going to be pretty lonely without it, but but the good thing is that the place, although it needs a lot of fixing up, I get to live there a little bit for free while I'm fixing up the place, and it has a well. It has a well. It has a well. No fluoride, no chlorine, unless someone snuck it in there at night and tipped it in there, which wouldn't surprise me either. And apparently the drinking water there is fantastic. So, and I'll be living.
Won't even think about the internet not being there, being so busy fixing it up. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. And actually, I'll just be focusing on getting back more into my guitar playing without staring at a screen all day long.
Definitely, So,
and also, I'll be living at the edge of this volcano, an area which has fascinated me, just a few 100 meters away from where these wild lynx live. Lynx, what do you call it again? Goat? Yeah, lynx in English. It's a wild cat. It's got like pointy ears and a short tail.
I love them.
Yeah, me too. And there's apparently, I've never seen them, but there's two lynx living at just a few 100 meters away from where I'm moving to. And where I'm moving to is also I mean, I thought I did a good job finding this place, which turned out to, well, which was great while it lasted, but until the end here. But because I wasn't used to being able to play music and practice my guitar without thinking about neighbors and stuff. Well, now I'm moving to a place where the neighbors are even further away, so I've got an even more. I can pull out my tenor sax at 4 o'clock in the morning and give it a full blow, you know. So there you go.
You know, you were talking earlier about, you know, the people. Some people believe that events are predestined.
Mm.
Right? Yeah. That's like when we go into the free will thing. You know, that's your choice. You see these things laid out before you. It's your choice whether you want to do that or not, and how you do it. You know, and it won't be the same as the way you've seen it, given your choices and your what you choose. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like it's also what you're saying there is a familiar theme in what my mother's tradition continued of palm reading, and which we have in the Roma people, my people. Well, I'm a mixture of Sami and Roma, but we have both the Sami and the Roma have preserved traditions of shamanism, you know, real shamanism, not this fake new age stuff. That's just a word that is literally. Right.
They pay me $200 and I'll tell you your
right. No, when it comes to my mother's palmistry, it's give a donation if you feel like it. It's not a charge. It's you know, if you feel like it gave you something, you know, put something in the tin or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a familiar theme. Or what was I going to say now? It was a familiar theme, and you were saying something, and now I lost my thread again.
The choices.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And how that is something that my mother also has pointed out to some of her clients before, that it's not clad in iron, your destiny, you know. These are things that are likely to happen in your future unless you do everything to avoid them, in other words, or find some way of going around it. So you know, the one guy down the road who's a fanatic Christian, not more like what I call one of the local typical Christian Nazis, really. Strange combination, but very common phenomena around here. Racist Christians. He's convinced that everything is predestined. So I said one thing to him. I said, if everything was predestined, then I wouldn't have to consciously raise myself up out of the bed in the morning. It would happen automatically.
Yeah.
And he had nothing to say to that, but I doubt he's changed his mind nevertheless. But that's the way I had spontaneously of trying to describe it to him, at least, you know.
Yeah. Y'all, the link to join is in the YouTube. I meant to say that. Sorry, y'all. But yeah, there's a lot of people so brainwashed by the religions and stuff that they can't see past what the book says.
Yeah, and if you're doing anything that challenges that doctrine, then you're automatically labelled as a pagan or a Satanist or a devil worshipper, or you know, devil worshipping, typical label that they put on many indigenous peoples, including the Sami people in the north, where the Sami people, who to this day use this shamanic drum. It has symbols on it. You know, you may have seen one or two. I might have posted something once that you've seen with some of these stuff. The Vikings, Christian Vikings, you know, they went to the Sami, and even before they became Christian as well, but it's mostly Christian Vikings. Burnt most of the Sami drums, and of course made their, like everywhere else, made the language illegal, the traditions illegal,
Yes.
forced them to have Christian
Yes.
surnames, which was not traditional at all.
Yes, that's like they done a lot of people that came here to America way back when. You know, they simplified their last name, easier to pronounce, they said. So,
yeah. And we're still using terms today. Well, I still hear people using terms that are derogatory, which were originally derogatory, as in, apparently, according to one source I was listening to yesterday, actually, I hadn't actually thought about that one much until I heard it. Sioux Nation, they say, but it's actually Lakota and another group, which I can't remember. But, there were names that were given by the Spanish to groups when they originally had their own names. And then there are these other names given, like we're still calling Native Americans Indians. They're not from India. Christopher Columbus did not arrive in India, and we're still using these terms today. We're still calling Inuit peoples Eskimos, but that's a derogatory term as well. In fact, one source actually says, I'm not sure if it's correct, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was true, because it actually, apparently, according to one source, comes from the Danish for a dirty man. Eskimo, a shitman, Eskimo, in Danish. And people still use this word, and the same things happens with the Roma people. We are called gypsies but then you even catch Roma people calling themselves gypsies, because nobody knows what you're talking about if you say Roma. That's how ignorant people are to this day about Europe's largest so-called minority. I mean, we are the largest so-called minority group in Europe. And to this day, Europeans are mostly ignorant about our that we have that we are an ethnicity with our own language and customs and traditions. They only hear the government propaganda that painting us in a bad light, because the government doesn't want to see free people wandering around, as we know, and the Roma challenged that control system by before we wandered around more freely. Now today, I mean, there are still traveling groups, but it's made more difficult by the day by having to have a passport. And
that's like back in the days of the tribes, of all the tribes, that's something else. That's what they've been trying to put a stop to, for us to be that close, tightly knit community. Like we have on here somewhat, some of us talk quite regularly, but we're not, that's something they stopped us from doing, was, because family is more than your blood, that's, and with these type of communities, like on here, they screw this shit up too, like, how they do on here, y'all. So it's, but and then there go back to the synchronicities about this and meeting all of these different people from around the world and stuff. It's like we were all meant to meet to talk about these things, because they don't want us to do this, and that's why they fuck with us a lot, because we've all come together here talking about the same things, had the same experiences, and everything. So that's something, they don't want the world to realize, this, like on my video I done on my other channel, that type of stuff. They don't want, people to realize that they're the same people that's been ruling us for thousands of years, type of stuff. And that's something that we just inherently know, I mean, it's so obvious to come together. But to the others, it's like you're talking to a wall. But we just got to find a way to. And this is part of it here. Saying there are no coincidences. We are all connected. And this is just one of the ways we are connected.
Yeah, I would say there's mostly no coincidences, although sometimes I think there is such a thing as a coincidence as well. But I do agree with you in essence. That what may look like a coincidence often isn't, because of that connection that one may or may not have a stronger, one may have a stronger or weaker relationship to that connection or not. But yeah. So.
No, the links in there if you want to join anybody. So just don't be trolling too. Anyways, yeah, I can barely.
Okay, I'm gonna try something else.
Okie dokie. It's like you're underwater or something.
Yeah.
Man, she has all kinds of troubles. But yeah, y'all, if you want to join there, but like always, if you want to join more off air, that's cool too. So, hope I didn't just accidentally click and open Skype. Anyway, okay. There you go. I know there's the what Paula's talking about her experience there about she was and she says I cannot go into huge details, it would take too long, but due to a medical emergency I was in an area, dreamlike area, but it was so familiar and the speed in which I traveled couldn't be real. This place was an area I'd describe as a meeting area where all souls traveling in different directions I was being led to. Getting a lot of feedback there. Let's see.
Me? Again?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm not been good luck today, am I? Right.
But yeah, that's, what Paula's talking about, I think, that sounds like something that, that's like a near-death experience. There's a lot of people on here that's had them, so you're not sounding nuts there, so.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways of when you get higher up in certain lodges, not that you need the lodge for that, there are ways of inducing an artificially induced near-death experience, you can suffocate yourself to near death and go out of your body, but you don't even need that to when you've fine-tuned your techniques, you don't even need to do that to leave the body. You can when you're going to sleep, or you can use well, I'm a bit wary of using the word meditation because that has so many connotations that really have nothing to do with what I'm saying, but let's just say just going to sleep, the simple act of going to bed, lying down, and if when you're going to sleep, well, some people may recognize what I'm saying, some maybe not. More often, often I'm closing my eyes, and you get that sleepy feeling just before you're nodding off, just before you're actually asleep, but you're so relaxed, and then you close your eyes. Often I get images flashing up in my eyelids. My eyes are closed, but it's like a projection screen. But I haven't entered the dream state yet, and this is the crossing point, which is it's a balance point where if you manage to stay there, then you can go into what they call lucid dreaming. But you can also, if you do this correctly, you can also go out of body from there as well. So this is takes practice, because if you're not relaxed when these images flash up under your eyelids, it can shock you, because often there are things flashing up that will try to scare you. There are certain entities that will try to scare the living daylights out of you, so that you don't get into that. You need to be relaxed and focused without being shocked out of your, because you can see some crazy stuff, you know, and then suddenly bang, you've lost it, and you've lost the connection, and then suddenly you're awake in your bed sitting up thinking, what the heck happened there? And that happens to me. Other times I'm more relaxed when I go into it. Other times I do, you know, actually get distracted quite easily. So it's not like I have 100% success rate there, but with practice, you know, there's something that should be something I look forward to practicing more. You know, having a break from the net now in a week and a half from now. I'm sure I'm going to be focusing more on these things, because at the moment I have this bad, actually, but it's probably a very bad habit, which is that I go to sleep while I'm listening to something. I put on a YouTube video like Alan Watt or whatever, and then I nod off, because it's like background sound. It helps me to relax, actually, and get sleep at all. And it means that I'm not, and I don't get these dream experiences at all. I haven't, because I'm focused on the broadcast, and I'm focused away from my own what's the word? My focus is somewhere else. So I go into the sleep state in a different way than if I wasn't listening to a broadcast. So in other words, it's a way of avoiding focusing on these phenomena. I mean, sometimes these phenomena can also include very disturbing things that you might not want to focus on. I mean, actually, to be honest, I've really wanted to be more down to earth and not focus on these things for a while as well. So, in a way, listening to these broadcasts is a way to avoid the other side, the ether, and what that might serve to you or not. But so. But no, yes, definitely returning to the ether. But I still want to stay down to earth, you know, because we are, you know, while we're going through life, I want to be in the body, experiencing this life as fully as possible. And but again, not forgetting the importance of the potential for the survival of the physical death. That the soul survives the physical death, which I understood had through my experiences as a child, and I've had that with me. I remember it clearly to this day. A very profound experience that, I tried describing that experience as a child to grown-ups that would just look at me strangely, and I could just almost hear their thoughts, thinking, well, what kind of weird kid is this, I mean, like a 8-9-year-old going on about going out of the body and asking grown-ups about, well, haven't you gone out of the body, and haven't you had seen this, seen that? So I gave up trying. I figured out pretty early on how open certain people were, at least to discussing things that were outside the indoctrination, and as people are steered away from a great reality, an enriching mystical wondrous world that you have been led away from, so as to be a trained slave to the system. And it's not as easy to enslave somebody who is aware on a multi-dimensional level, because then they are more aware of who you are, what you are a part of is much greater than you can see with the physical eye, than what you can hear with your ears. It's much more profound. And you can connect with people. I've actually arranged to meet on 2 different occasions, arranged to meet someone in the dream state, and it worked both times. On one time was more prominent than the other, but both times worked. And although the one guy, he looked very confused as how this happened, and
like, why am I here?
yeah, it was. We actually we arranged to meet. We actually arranged the physical place in on Earth to meet. I mean, you can arrange to meet in outer space or someplace, but it's easy to find like I met one guy by a rock. That we've been walking in. He visited me here where I'm living now, and we took a walk in the woods, and we stopped by this big rock. You know, there are these rocks that have been deposited by glacial movement and stuff, you know, lying around and about the places. Suddenly you come across this big stone, and it can be a nice place to sit in the nature, you know. A seat in nature, you know, if you don't want to sit in a bed of ants, you can sit on a big rock. And this rock was rather special, and we arranged to meet at that rock, my friend and I, and yes, lo and behold, that worked in the dream state. And another guy, I visited him and arranged to meet him outside the place where we were staying that night. He actually went to bed at least 2 or 3 hours before I did. He went to his bedroom, and then I was just looking at the internet, and went to bed, 2 or 3 hours after him. Still, nevertheless, we managed to meet in the dream, even though we didn't go to sleep at the same time. So I thought that was interesting, because I wasn't sure how successful I would be, seeing as he went to bed long before me, you know. So that was a question mark, but we overrid that. And there you go. I'm going on.
Mind is a powerful tool, you know. I know.
Yes.
Yeah, and even beyond the mind, the soul expressing itself through the physical body is, I suggest, is the reality, yeah.
Like music and art and all kinds of things. Yeah, it's an extension of your soul, yeah.
When one does subconscious meditation when one's asleep, and one can have all that deep rooted, when one's mind is not conscious in the day, I mean obviously it's conscious in the day, but one is not thinking of the buried issues one may have from years ago. So when one has subconscious, deep subconscious meditation, it can surface in the day, and one's mind and thought patterns and behaviours. Sorry about the phone going off.
Yes.
One of those days today. Let's talk about this. One of those days. So one can find one's subconscious mind reacting with a conscious mind in the day of these surfacing images, and then connecting the body. The body can react differently without one realizing, and it might just take another individual to see that, which my neighbour did, because he did my CDs for me, and he's what you just said, Dave, about Romeo and chanting, reading. My neighbour did all that, and for years he said to me, "Why do this, that, and the other?" So I got been on this journey for 2.5 years to help me in my health and general things. And it's interesting when you're not consciously aware of your projecting of your conscious mind, the effect of what one's mind has been doing when you're not consciously thinking, if that makes sense, because you're in that deep state of sleep and doing that meditation, which is meant to get into your deep subconscious state of the mindset. And it's quite powerful. And it depends on the subject one is using. One can find these. I started ages ago these beat tones, and I researched that a bit more because it was like playing like a clip on YouTube with these beats that meant to help you sleep with certain patterns. But I researched that, and that could alter your brain set in the negative actually area in some areas, some people. So I stopped that, and I just focused on my neighbour's, his talents and doing CVs for me. And I tell you, trying to get off the mainstream pharmaceuticals, for example, and all that kind of natural ways of doing things absolutely works a treat.
Yeah.
And I've noticed a difference actually because I've been sidetracked. I mean, the powers that be like to sidetrack me at the moment, and in practical everyday crap. And therefore, I've not been doing my meditation for 3 nights. And have I noticed a difference in the mind? Yeah, negatively. So it just goes to show how the power of one's conscious and the subconscious mind is, again, a powerful tool. And this is what my opinion from experience generally is if one goes through trauma, for example, no matter what you just said, Rebecca, about the implementation of, it's like in Great Britain, the massive influx of funding for mental health. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's all about it's all about big pharma and putting more labels on people.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And what they did to me this year, it was just one of those typical examples.
Yes.
And I saw through that. And a lot of people won't see through that because they may not be in their life and stage of life to be able to see through things. And unfortunately, they will believe what they're told about themselves. So nobody's able. I don't see. I might have something the other going on, but I don't see me as a label.
Yeah.
I just see. Yeah.
You were saying, most people won't see it because they're not in tune. Like Lass said, it's a beautiful thing, a universal radio, and only a few are tuned into it. So, it's not everybody's going to get these things, unfortunately. That's just the way it is, I guess.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Becca, because I'll give you just a brief example. I mean, Dave, was fascinating what you're saying, Dave, about your experiences. I was young. I mean, years ago, not that old, but years ago, I was on this beautiful South Devon cliff. And my first experience away from home, working away from home, in this really old type, it's like a movie set, you can imagine, with a beautiful coast lashed against the old cliff tops. And I was staying, it was in a makeshift old car park, and this hotel management made makeshift rooms for people, staff to stay in. And I was one of them with my next door best mate next door. We all worked in the same hotel. And then I had to do this really late shift, and it was like, you can imagine the scene, the howling of the wind, the howling of the waves, and a very dark alley with big steps going up to my little chalet. And then in this, we're always told by the local villagers, which had a pub, really old, like, I don't know how old, but bloody old. And we're told that this old building by the steps was haunted. Didn't believe in that. I was very religious at the time. Didn't believe in ghosts. And I was young, 16. And so there I am, but, trying not to look at that window of this building, and suddenly the light goes out, the street light goes out. I mean, like the path light, see where I can go, pitch black. Yeah. Suddenly I see in the corner of my eye a white flash, and I thought that could be the light bulb coming on. No, I swear to goodness, I mean, my sister never believed me when I told her a while back, but this woman in a floating, really old-fashioned, I suppose, 1800s year kind of period dress, and youngish looking, right up the window, her hands, 2 hands, pressing against the glass window, like beckoning me, and it's like, oh God, shite. My God, I ran up the steps. Slammed into, I shouted out to, I broke her up actually. I shouted to my best mate, I said, help, help, I just seen a ghost, my God. And she was the one that was more spiritually aware. She's a bit older than I at the time.
And didn't believe it.
Amazing. And then about 2 nights later, my night off, I went to the local pub and I knew the bloke, well, his parents, you know, ran the pub, and he was in the Navy on leave. And my gosh, it was like, I said to him what happened, and then he told me the story about what happened in that old building. And my God, he said, yeah, all the villagers knows about that ghost, that woman. I said, no, you're kidding me. And at that time, this old pub, which had been renovated, but still creaky like a ship, a really old ship, wooden ship. He said, oh, come up and have coffee, whatever, because it's getting late. And as we come out the main part of the bar, going up to the steps to their accommodation, we hear all the doors going, we hear the slams, we hear the creaking. My God, I was shouting myself. And he said, I've got to tell you. I do want to tell you before. I said, what now? He says, this is 500 years old, this pub. It's been on this cove, and anyone can Google it. It's called Hope Cove in South Devon. I can't remember. It's a beautiful area for holiday, and I don't know if the hotel's still on the top of the hill.
Yes.
But I tell you, it's so haunted. My goodness, because in the old days when they had smuggling with the old from the ships on the rocks, that is apparently oh my God. And then the third last thing was I was on leave and I was late getting back. I missed the bus. I was 16 and a half by then, 6 months in that job, and I missed the bus and I started walking. It started a typical night and it was raining, and suddenly I saw a phone box in the middle of the countryside, heading from the city area to that really remote area of the sea, and my God, I was petrifying in case, because in them days it was like hitchhiking wasn't seemed dangerous, but I was so naive. I was so naive. And then again, it's like a movie scene, the howling, every bit of noise. I mean, and suddenly there was a car coming forward towards me. Oh my God, I'm on my own, in the middle of nowhere, and I see this phone box in the distance. I thought, I can't run that quick. And I was going to a hotel to see if someone can pick me up. Sure enough, the car slowed down. My God, I couldn't see a figure. I couldn't see nobody. What the hell's this? And suddenly it weren't what I thought. It was the manager of the hotel worried about me. Because my old dear ran up. And I got there in the end because it was because I thought, no, it can't be a coincidence. And obviously not. So I just remember all those years ago that, our perceptions, I mean, as I got older now, but as our perceptions in life, things happen for reasons sometimes, and if one is like, like you said about religion, indoctrination, unfortunately, is so rampant with a lot of people and my own family and my experience in it. And it was like a veil lifting off the shoulders, the mindset.
Yeah.
And then I went down the opposite road of liberalism, completely off scale. And oh my God, yeah. And it was like, it's only after all that, whatever, I came back and experience of so-called fake world, I call it now, and then the rabbit holes and coming back to where I am now. So perhaps things happen for a reason, perhaps.
Yes.
I believe so. Because if I hadn't had this accident, things happened to me, I wouldn't have gone on that search of certain personal journeys.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be in this mindset thinking like this.
Right. And Paula has a question here. Are we just revisiting? If ghosts are here, why are they, and why haven't they moved on? Well, that's the thing there. You know, I think some of the time they are revisiting, and some of them are actually haunting.
Yeah.
So, because you know, when you die and your spirit goes back up, you know, whatever, to the light, wherever you want to call it, you have that choice of where you want to go. And a lot of people refuse to come back here and stuff. So, but yeah. Thank you for that question.
Yeah. Oh no, I just remember a really good one, which is from this area where I'm living now. I met this guy who was teaching didgeridoo, and sitting in a room with a couple of other people. So he starts. He says at the school where I'm staying, there's this apparition, and he's about to describe it, and I say, "Stop! Don't say anything more," because I was already picking it up. And what he was about to describe was already in my mind's eye, and I wanted to know if what I was seeing was going to match up with what he was about to describe. So I rudely, what seemed like rudely, but he appreciated it afterwards, and so did I. So I said, "Stop! Don't go on. I'm going to draw what you saw. I'm going to draw a picture of it." And he looked quite surprised, as did the other bloke there. And I start drawing this picture, and I said, "Well, what the apparition in your room? It's this young girl from, and you already mentioned the 1800s and something, wasn't it you, Becky? And you were also talking about something older, Madam Free there. This was also from maybe the 1800s. The clothing she had, like this like what do you call it? Like these straps over her shoulders with this kind of blouse with a ballooning shoulders, like with frilly bits on it, and what I described anyway. So I end up doing a drawing. I said she's got red hair, and she's maybe 10, 11 years old or something, and he looked really surprised, you know, that I could stop him in the middle of a sentence and tell him what he was about to describe to us, which I got absolutely right. And interestingly enough, that's not the only place where this apparition has been happening. I was invited to stay with a famous musician here, about 30 kilometers from here. Let's just say he's a very well-known musician here in Norway and in Romania as well. And I was invited there, so I stayed the night in his daughter's bedroom. His daughter doesn't live there anymore, but her paraphernalia is still stuck on the wall. A lot of satanic shit, you know, with inverted pentagrams and that type of thing hanging on her wall. I was shown my bedroom, you know, everyone was going to bed, and I was shown the bedroom, and I went to sleep there, or I was going to sleep, and I felt a presence, you know, and I'm looking at the wall, and I'm starting to pick up the vibrations of whatever his daughter has been connecting to there as well, because and this connects to other stuff as well that has really been happening in this area. But so basically, I'm lying in the bed, and this apparition happens straight in front of me, hanging this girl with red hair and the same clothing as the bloke. You know, I think it's actually the same apparition, because it's the same girl with the long red hair, only she is tied up, suspended from the ceiling over me, with many cuts, bleeding, cut throat, cut many places on her body, ropes around her neck, arms, shoulders, ankles, suspended from the ceiling, face down in the horizontal position, and dripping blood, and basically telling me, you know, this is what has happened. And she had a red dress. The dress was red. And the next morning, you know, get up, find my host wandering around in the kitchen there, and I say to him straight away, I had a very interesting, well, I just called it a dream, you know, just at that moment. I just said I had a very interesting dream or vision last night about a young lady in a red dress. And he turns his head around, he looks shocked at me, and he says, strange you should say that, so did I.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And what was the young girl telling me? Oh, she's telling me about a satanic cult here in this area that I think operates to this day in this area, that does ritual satanic abuse, ritual human sacrifice, and so on. And I've actually heard, after all of this, I say that because after this happened, people have told me rumors about these activities actually happening in this area. So I don't have.
Oh yeah, I believe that happens about everywhere, because I grew up hearing stories about that, and I still hear stories about that. So.
Right. Oh, by the way, before I forget it, I'm about to post something in the chat there. Lactuca virosa. I'm hoping this is interesting for you all. Wild lettuce. So those of you who are on painkillers, like Madam Frida, you're in the UK, you can find Lactuca virosa, make sure you get the right plant, which is a viable and as of yet not illegal natural painkiller. Was used before opium and opioids and opiates as a natural painkiller, which you can harvest and concentrate. You can basically just concentrate that into a kind of a brown gunge very easily. You just put it in I can post a video there as well, actually, because there's this video. Whatever. Anyway, you do some searches on that, you'll soon find out how to purify that. It's also good for asthmatics, so it won't cause. It also has a calming effect as well. And this is something which is a viable alternative to your toxic big pharma painkillers and so on and so forth. So if you can get out there in your wheelchair and find Lactuca virosa, and you can harvest it yourself, and again, make sure you get the right plant, because there are things that look similar and so on. So it grows in the UK, it also grows in the Americas, and it was used by the Native Americans before Big Pharma, and some people are reintroducing it now, and you can find some videos on YouTube about that.
There's lots of others too. So yeah, just do your research.
Can you hear me?
That's a start, y'all. Yes.
This is a very effective one.
Yeah. Repeat that name for me.
I've written it in the chat. Lactuca.
I'll paste it in here.
Lactuca, first word. Virosa, second word, or just search for wild lettuce. What they call wild lettuce.
Okay, then Paul is asking, is there an infinite amount of souls or energies or a number that are recycled again and again until either they have learned all they need, then are promoted to another level somewhere else, but not? That's something, that's a debate. That's a topic there we could go into for hours probably. I don't know, that's...
the word reincarnation comes in there, doesn't it? Yeah. And I'm not convinced reincarnation works the way some people have been told it works, because in fact, I'm actually borrowing a term from what is usually fake mainstream science, and that is genetic memory, which I'm borrowing there, because I think there are memories we get through the physical world, through our what we inherit physically on this planet. We inherit also genetic memory, for lack of a better term. Basically, that's why I'm borrowing the term. As for if we get reincarnated or not, you know, I mean, I'm not the all-knowing. You know, I don't think the things I remember are from having inhabited a body previously on this planet. I think actually I just came down and inhabited this body, and the things I'm recognizing are through this genetic memory phenomena, which can be confused with having lived before in another body. There again, having said that, I would say that the time that sea eagle was outside our house on the island many years ago, after my grandfather passed away, I think he actually borrowed the body of a sea eagle to say hello to us. But that was borrowing the sea eagle. It wasn't actually reincarnating into a new body, you know. You know, I don't. Yeah, that my take on that. I just thought, for what it's worth, I'd just try and describe. I'm not describing it very well. It's hard to describe with words, but a lot of people.
Like I said, that's another long debate we could have there. So
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Another
There's
thing.
many different things we could bring up there with that too. You know, so. Another
thing that happened to me years ago in London was. I'm sitting at home at Gould Road in Twickenham, and the last place we lived at in before we left England for good many years ago. And I'm sitting there, the curtains are closed, and with my back to the window, which is to the main street, you know, faces the main street there. And I get this feeling that someone's focusing on me from outside the window. So, and I can tell from which direction. So I open the curtains, and and just behind the car, in the exact direction I look out at, is this guy who's also called David. And I invited him in, and he knew I knew, and that's why he was standing out there, focusing his intent on me to get my attention. Without ringing the bell. He didn't need to throw a stone at the window. I couldn't hear any rustling or any noise, you know. It was just yet another it's a bit like that, you know, you can tell someone's looking at you, feeling, you know, but a very strong version of that.
I've had that happen a lot. I'd say a lot of y'all out there that's on here, the panel, have had that happen as well. Yeah. Yeah, I remember one day in particular, it was last week, the little one was at your grandma's, and I was sitting here, I'm like, I'm going to go outside and sit for a bit, okay? No sooner I got outside and sat down, something compelled me to go sit outside, and there they pulled up.
Yeah.
With the little one, you know, she just come to get some things, but, you know, that, yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
So, anybody wants to add there? Anything there we talked about?
Well, I had to go for my neighbor decided to mow the field across the street, mowed his entire field, piled all the grass onto my grass, which is nicely mowed, just all the way to my driveway. I mean, it's almost 30 feet. Smothered my truck in grass, my van. You know, they don't have any consideration. He blew every blade of extra glass out into the street for the gutter to take it. People have no conscious thought. If a cop sees that, he would have nabbed him. But I was praying for one.
Rude.
Yeah.
The one time the mind never works is always to a policeman, right? Never works there.
Yeah. Well, did you have anything to add to what we was talking about?
No, sorry.
Well, I just got on here. I don't know what you were talking about.
What we talked about a lot, ESP related stuff, extrasensory perception, and the soul, the experiences we have, the synchronicities and coincidences. There's no coincidences type of thing.
The soul coming out of the body.
Yeah, we talked about that too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I know their plasma cat is there. If you're there.
Well, I know what you're saying because I had a death experience. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, my soul came out of the body, and I saw it. My body right next to me because I was in surgery, and it was right next. My body was right next to me, kind of creeped me out.
Oh man. Yeah. See, there, David's had that experience too, and Paula there in the chat has too. So a lot more people's had that experience than what people think. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Paula, Alan, hey Alan, Soul has many experiences, and Paula says maybe these experiences are to help us develop to a better understanding of life. Yeah. So, anybody else?
All four of them have their ones.
I've got one for you. It's not of me. My son, he was about 7 and he was in a car accident. Thank God he survived. But it's just a bit strange. So, I think don't listen in. I won't go into the brackets, but I was on the way one night coming home from a health club, and I saw all these ambulance and police cars all over the road where I used to live. And then I had somebody come rushing up to me and say it's my son, like panic. And apparently what happened, that this woman had not, she was on her mobile phone, and his mates already crossed on their bikes in the collision crossing. So it's all green.
Your sound is like, we can't hardly hear.
Can you hear me now?
A little better.
Oh, Bigfoot's messing about with my connection again then.
Yeah, it's a little better, yeah.
Okay. So what happened, unfortunately, the car hit him head on with his bike. The bike flew up in the air with him as well. And apparently his head hit the windscreen first, and the bike landed up halfway up the road, so the police said. And he says to me this, when he got to the ambulance and, he woke up, he didn't wake up per se. He said it took him about a couple of weeks to tell me this, because obviously he's young, bless him, he didn't know what to make of it. So I know that is an out-of-body experience, and it was like it wasn't his time to go, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I wasn't there because the police had to take me down there, blue lights kind of thing. And apparently he said he saw his body on the operating table in the hospital, emergency room thing. And he sensed, it's just like, they're describing how to word it all these years on. It's like he was floating. He described it, and he was looking down at his physical body. And next thing he remembers is being pushed into it and waking up with all these nurses and doctors around him, and then me turning up. And he was lucky, pure lucky, that he had no major permanent brain injury and loads of tiny cuts because of glass on his skull and his head, and no serious injury on that. Apart from that, he had a broken nose and a broken arm, and he basically took him about 6-7 weeks to recover from that. But the woman got done, obviously, for what she did, and we had to get lawyers and stuff. But he had a major problem crossing roads for a long, long time, which I had to help him with. Yeah, and it took him a long, long time to get the courage to get back on a bike. But that always stuck with him, apparently, all these many years later. And so obviously it just goes to show that life is so precious, no matter what age you are. It could happen to anybody. I mean, even young little ones, you know, babies and stuff. And so talk about if spirits are ready to go or not. So if that is anything to go by, from my son's experience, then he wasn't ready. It wasn't his turn, you know.
No.
He wasn't. So
That was a learning experience for him. Yeah.
And those are the words so many people have described to me. You know, I've had many face-to-face conversations because I'm often one of the people who brings up this subject. You know, meeting people around and about the place. You know, off the internet as well as on, really. And I might describe a thing or two, and then suddenly people will open up and say, "I've never dared to say this before, but what you described there was exactly what I experienced, more or less down to a T." And so many times, you know, when I left, when I was flatlined, you know, declared basically dead at the hospital as a child. You know, I went out of the body, just like so many people describe, and it was like I was hovering up under the ceiling, basically, looking down on the room, and looking at my physical body, looking at the activities of the nurses around me, and then blah, blah, blah. When I came back, I described details, but I also went into this tunnel, which many people also have described to me. In fact, the first person who acknowledged that they experienced the same thing was my grandfather, who before I could speak good enough, I actually had to get my mum to translate because my Norwegian wasn't good enough at that time. He was getting very dramatic, as a very dramatic kind of guy too. He grabbed me by the wrist and was trying to describe to me his near-death experience when he had one of his heart attacks and was driven in an ambulance and blah blah blah. And he was describing, and I got my mum to translate, and yeah, he's saying he's going into a tunnel and the light at the end of the tunnel, but like, this is exactly what I experienced. And I went up through this tunnel, but it was like floating up, everything, all the I see the word baggage somewhere in the chat there. It was like leaving your baggage behind, because it was a great relief, I tell you. But don't go and commit suicide or anything, you know. I'm not using, beware of suicide cults using this information to lure you into suicide, because they will, this is some of the information that is used for the wrong reasons too. There's a reason to stay in the body, you're going to die anyways, let's live it out, you know. So please don't use what I'm describing here if you're suicidal or anything. This is not, you know, because this is a common theme in suicide cults and blah blah blah. So this is not the reason I'm describing. I'm describing this so that you will become fearless in life, not so that you will become fearless of death to end the life. So anyway. I was fascinated a moment ago because the lady who's now using a surfboard picture there, I think we've met before, yeah, where she also described that she's seen the same type of phenomena on another level, kind of a strange object she saw that seemed that what I was describing rang a bell. Now I'm just astounded, because she said she was in the surgery and it was like outside of her body and so on. So I mean, it's not often you bump into someone in a chat or anywhere where, I mean, one experience is enough. But sorry, before I get back, I'd love to talk more with her later on if that's possible. Yeah. Maybe if she's still around off air. I'm fascinated. Anyway, so when I got to the end of the tunnel. But before I got to the end of the tunnel, it was like a tiny dot of light. It was so far away, like a tiny pinprick of light. And gradually, I got closer and closer as I kind of swiveled up, you know, towards this dot. of light. And when I got there, it was just like going into it's a bit like if you imagine a swimming pool of water, which is light, and you just enter into it, only you're not really swimming as such. It's a bit like swimming. It was like being in light. And don't, not to be confused with all this, the love and the light, it's a load of old sausages. It was just at that point of the experience, it was like stepping through a portal at the end of a tunnel. And then I was spoken to, and so many people again have said the same thing. I recognize what you're saying. It's not your time yet. You have to go back. And on the way back, it was like much more quickly down the tunnel than it was on the way up, where I was just kind of drifting up. On the way down, it was like whoosh, and then bang, straight back into the body, and then whoa, I was like back into the waking state, back in the body. And it was like the hospital staff were astounded. They thought they'd basically written me off as flatlined. And then I walked out of the hospital later that day, or was it the next day? Walking down the hallway with my mother out of the hospital, I started to describe the third, because there were two nurses there, but there was a third nurse that only after I was flatlined entered the room, who had a different costume on, a very strange hat. Very strange, and she had a black uniform on, as opposed to the blue and white that the other nurses were wearing. And I start describing what she did, and she came in with a black box with some tools in it. I put it on the desk beside the hospital bed, and all of these details are described from outside the body, met up with the actual. And my mum looked at me astounded. How could you know this? You know, you were supposedly flatlined. You were supposedly clinically dead at that time. And her jaw dropped, literally, and was looking at me and bewildered. I've spoken to 5 people in this area who are describing the same thing with the tunnel. They're also describing the same entities that I've seen. They're describing the same tunnel, the same thing said to them at the end of the tunnel, regardless of whether you're religious or not. Some of them, one of them is a devout Christian, if that's the word for him. Nevertheless, you know, what he describes is exactly the same, and not everybody gets as far as the tunnel. Even I think it's just as interesting, even if you haven't been like beyond the hospital bed or the accident situation, whatever it is that leads you to that near-death experience or out-of-body experience. Yeah, my granddad had it. These people I meet around here. No, whatever leads you to it, you know, it's the same thing we're describing. It fascinates me to this day. In fact, I think this is one of the things I think about almost every day. I think about this. That's how fascinating it is for me. You know, if it was just an hallucination, what would be the chances of what you're seeing from outside of the body matching up with the reality actually happening here? Zilch, especially when it happens not only to you but to other people, and time again going out of the body, seeing things even without having gone out of the body. I'm having experiences where I'm describing things that are happening in other places, which is called remote viewing often. I have regular remote viewing experiences. My mother contacted me. She wanted me to find someone who'd lost a ring, a wedding ring. I ended up seeing a whole, but I couldn't find her ring, but I did describe how she lost her ring. And then I ended up describing a whole bunch of stuff, that she had an upright mahogany piano, and that behind the piano there was a green box. All of this matched up with reality.
I know another that's had similar experiences as well, but he's not here. You know, Eric, the Truth of Life. You know, we've talked about this a lot too. Yeah, so he's had similar experiences as well. So
there you go. Here we go.
Just wanted to add that in there, y'all. So.
Wow. Yeah. And I was asked to find this lady has lost her ring. So I get contacted by Mum. Can you find a missing object for this lady? And And I said, well, I'm not sure. But then the images just start flooding into my mind's eye. In the waking state, I'm sitting with my eyes open. I'm not going into any special state. I'm already connected. You know, it's just streaming in. It's like someone streaming, uploading the whole session for me straight into the nut. You know, it's yeah. Someone wrote "Beam me up, Scotty" in the chat. You know, yeah, something like that. So I said, well, wait a minute, and then it's all flooding in, and I see this lady in a white suit, trousers. She's wearing trousers and a jacket, you know, like a white suit with a long keychain hanging out of her right pocket. She's walking up to her apartment door. She pulls the keychain out of her pocket, and the ring falls out at the same time because she had the ring in her pocket, and it flies out and it rolls down the stairs. And then she walks into her apartment in this vision, and on the right hand side I see an upright mahogany piano. I mean, how many people do you know who have an upright mahogany piano? I said, right, there's an upright mahogany piano, and I see a green sort of oblong, no, it was a rectangular object behind the piano. All of this met up with reality. She found a green lidded box. I thought it was a pencil case with a zipper on it or something, but it turned out to be a box with a green lid on it. But I mean, it was difficult to see behind the piano exactly what it was, but it was a green oblong thing that had fallen behind that. I saw that, no, she didn't find a ring, but everything else I described in the vision again met up with reality. And another experience I had was in Trondheim, where I was in a certain place for certain reasons. I can't go into full detail here, but I'll try and describe as much as I can. Anyway, I was in a certain place, and I was walking around in there, and I walked into the room of this building, which is the Sjöfartsmuseum, sea. It's like a sea museum, like a shipping history museum in Trondheim. And I'm walking around in there, and I walk into a room, and I get a feeling that something's there, and lo and behold, there is something there, and it's telling me. I couldn't see it, but it was so present. In fact, it was so present, it was actually on a poltergeist level, where it could turn the doorknob in the room and stuff like that. But the present, it was like an extreme, like a static, if you like, around me, and it was, my hair literally was on end, and this man of color, of African origin, who was enslaved there a long time ago, and he's telling me about the pain and the suffering. It's not in words, it was just, it all came in feelings and images, and how he was held there as a slave, how he was tortured in this very room where I was at. And I'd mentioned this to my mum and to some relatives of mine on the island, and later on, a few months later, a relative of mine, in fact the mother, says, look at this article that's come out in the newspaper. And so I look at the article, and it's from that museum, and it describes how an African man, was used as a slave in that museum, before it was a museum, you know, when it was actually, it was a couple of 100 years ago or something. How he was enslaved in chains and everything, and tortured in that room. And there weren't many Africans in Norway at that time, that far north, I tell you. I mean, how on earth I was picking up so much detail down to a T, and then it comes out in the newspaper. You know, so again, I mean, I'd said this to people before. I hadn't read this anywhere, and then they're pointing it out to me in a newspaper article, and I was blown away. They were blown away. So there's yet another thing that I haven't described here before, I think. So hopefully that was worth mentioning.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard that before either, David. I mean,
Right.
it's cool. But yeah, So,
And it's called Norsk Sjøfartsmuseum in Trondheim. So I think you can find the article on the net somewhere, actually.
oh,
Could try and find it, but I don't know if I can be bothered right now. I'm going to get some water.
okay. Say hey, y'all, to everybody out there. Again, there James, there Alan, Paula, Carolyn's in there, Anonymous Love there. I said Paula. Foxy, Free OK, Dud. Let me see here. I'm scrolling, y'all. Laz Valdez. So let's see, I think that's probably about it. Oh, Firecat. And that's it. So hey y'all, thank y'all for joining us. So, been really good there. So yes. So Foxy had to go, she said so. And I'm gonna give it. I got about a few more minutes here. If anybody else wants to add anything else, and then I'll put the link in there. You know, if anybody wants to come off air and stuff. So, anybody want to add anything? Anyone? No one? Okie dokie. So, excuse me, y'all. But like I said, anybody can join in afterwards. Here it is there if you want to come in after. So, and like I said, I don't know when the next one will be. So, and I'm having an invaded here myself. So, they're playing a video game. So, but it may be Saturday, but if not, it'll probably be like Sunday or Monday, the next one. Or, no, wait, I said Wednesday. I'm sorry, Drew. Yeah, it'll be next Wednesday at 5. So I'll probably do an art one in between now and then. So, and anytime, it will be at any time. So I did one last night at like 11 o'clock or something like that. So anyway, thanks you all for joining and participating, and everybody on the panel. Excellent. You know, it's really good to hear all these people coming together with all these experiences and sharing them and stuff. So we need more of that. So don't be shy. You know, y'all, you have something like that to share next time, or like if you just want to wait to come off air and talk about it, that's cool. So, but thank y'all for joining. Much love, and remember, you know, it's all here. It's all within you. So, thank you so much, y'all. Again. See ya.